To unpack the poll's findings, joining me now is Nagan Sinclair, an associate professor with the University of Manitoba and columnist for the Winnipeg Free Press, and Robin Bourgeois, who is an assistant professor with the Centre for Women's and Gender Studies at Brock University. Thank you, guys.
Thank you much.
So I should start by saying that this was an online poll that was conducted by Public Square Research and Morrow Blue a couple of weeks ago. It included 500 Indigenous people from across the country, and it was commissioned by the CBC. So in 2015, there was a big push to rock the vote for Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, who enjoyed 41% of our vote. According to this poll, though, that support has dropped to 24%. I'll start with you, Robin. Why has it dropped?
I mean, I think there's all kinds of reasons, but I think when it boils down to it, the bottom line is that Trudeau came out swinging big. He came out looking impressive and saying, you know what, we're going to change the relationship we have with Indigenous peoples in this country. And he's done some things that are, you know, interesting and maybe productive. I mean, I think there are people who would say that the National Inquiry, for example, was a really good thing to have happen. At the same time, he's also walked all over Indigenous people's rights. We are dealing with the fact that he wants to drive a pipeline through Indigenous lands without Indigenous permission. We also are seeing what he's doing. Sorry, my mind just went on a little blank, but with UNDRIP, we saw UNDRIP go before the government and that bill not be passed. So I think he is walking, or he's talking, but he's not walking the talk anymore. And I think Indigenous Canadians, or well, Indigenous peoples in Canada, are really troubled by that.
Nagan, what are your thoughts on why this support has torpedoed?
Well, absolutely what Robin said, but I would add that, you know, the difference between this election and the previous election is, I mean, Indigenous peoples were very much voting against Stephen Harper and the long reign of terror that Stephen Harper was bringing to Indigenous communities. This time around, I think Indigenous peoples generally don't feel that same kind of vitriol towards Andrew Scheer. Maybe that will come, maybe it won't. But generally what Indigenous peoples are also feeling are this is a typical way that Liberals operate. They come in, they make a great deal of promises, and then through a kind of back doorway tend to betray Indigenous trust. So this is not anything new, but I think this is generally how Liberals and Indigenous peoples interact in cycles throughout history. Yeah.
So this support, interestingly, it was according to the poll, there's an equal divide of the support that the Liberals have lost, have gone to the Conservatives and the NDP, and gone to them equally. Does that surprise either of you?
I would say no. I mean, Indigenous peoples generally lean towards New Democratic parties if they vote at all. And I think what the issue you're going to see with this election, I think Indigenous peoples are just not going to participate as much on any kind of scale that they did last time around.
Robin, your thoughts on that split that the Andrew Scheer Conservatives have got a chunk of that support that the Liberals lost, has the NDP. Are you surprised by that?
It actually really concerns me. I mean, I survived the Harper era and that Conservative regime that had no interest in Indigenous peoples whatsoever. So I'm really scared when I hear statistics like that suggesting that our people are supporting Andrew Scheer, because, I mean, this is a man who came out not very long ago and basically denied the claims of the National Inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and denied the aspect of genocide. So that really frightens me, though I see there's hope. I mean, I think the NDP certainly is a little bit more progressive. I do hope that maybe we would consider Green Party, for example, as another valid option given our Indigenous concerns around the environment.
Yeah. I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't a bigger boost in support for the Green Party, actually. So I'll ask you both, just to wrap it up, Nagan, your final thoughts on what you think we can expect in this fall election.
Well, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see it's such a razor-thin margin this time around. The Conservatives and the Liberals are so close that I think the Liberals have learned a bit of a lesson in terms of making huge promises and then failing to deliver on those, and also the treatment of Jody Wilson-Raybould, for example. I think publicly they've learned a number of things, and if they get a minority government, or if the Conservatives get a minority government, you'll see a real kind of Indigenous peoples will play a role within that division. And I think that could be a good thing between those two parties, the natural sort of governing parties within the country.
Yeah. Robin, do you think that we're going to be rocking the vote this time?
Oh, you know what? I think there's so much on the table, and I think Indigenous peoples are incredibly savvy, and I think we are paying, careful attention to what's going on, and I think there's going to be a lot of pandering. I think there's going to be a lot of parties that are trying to make themselves seem really good for Indigenous peoples when, really all of these governments are all colonial governments at the end of the day anyway and are serving themselves. So I think, I really hope that, maybe some of us who are really into politics will go out and help Indigenous peoples understand some of the issues at play and help unpack some of those promises that are made by the parties.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for stopping in to share your thoughts on this, and I guess we'll have you back when it's election time, and we'll see if what you said today is right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.